I mean, Jimmy, we talked about not just, Arizona's making inroads. You see a lot of these guys doing that.
Who's this guy?
I don't even know who this guy is.
I don't know either.
I never heard of him before.
We didn't invite you up here yet, but.
Tyron Johnson, the number one wide receiver in the country, is joining us now. LSU signee. Made some people sweat this morning. It seemed like I don't think people understood quite what was going on with everything. But the number one wide receiver in the country. Before we get to him, tell me, just a little. You've watched him a lot. I remember the day you first turned on his film. I think you were about 2 minutes in, and you called me and said, "I found the new number one player in Louisiana," and this was 2 years ago. Tell me what you saw then and what you see now in this young man right here.
See, when you just told him that, you just basically also told him initially I didn't have you number one. Even after that conversation, I wanted you to kind of earn it. You know what I mean? And that's something that kind of got under your skin. But it's just been phenomenal watching him develop. When I first saw him, he was just I think it was at the National Underclassmen Combine in Zachary.
Yep.
Just a raw athlete. Didn't know much about how to get in and out of his breaks, how to come off the line properly, but you just saw him open up, and when the ball was in the air, his ability to track it was phenomenal. So, and you gave me a hard time about not making you number one in the country. And that's a part of you that I think has helped bring you to where you are. Your desire to be great. You don't want to just be another guy. You don't want to be a guy people remember. You want to be a guy that leaves an impression. So tell me a little bit about the desire to be great, and what is it that drives you to work the way you do?
My family and friends, drive me, make sure I'm working out, make sure I'm working hard, and I'll be the best I can be.
I've seen your workouts in person. You work out not far from my house, so I've snuck over there quite a few times, and you go through an extreme workout regimen. How do you think that's going to prepare you and give you an advantage against over some other guys that are going to be enrolling with you that probably have never worked out like that before in their life? So what kind of advantages do you think you have just from the work you put yourself through, the daily regimen, and the consistency that you've done it for the last few years?
I would have a great advantage over them guys because they don't really work how I work. They probably work, but they're not as technique sound as I am. And when I train with Coach JJ, he's a technician, and he's teaching me to be a technician. So, and a lot of kids in college don't really work that hard. They really like to chill, party, and have fun. But JJ keep me working hard, and my dad keep me working hard, so I could be great at the college level.
How did going through and being an All-American, but being the guy? You were on a team where you had a lot of wide receivers who could make plays, but everybody still knew who they had to guard. How did that continue to make you better when you knew you were going to get the number one DB every night? Day in, day out, that's who was going to come after you. How did that help make you better as well?
It made me better because I never had an easy game. If we played a team that wasn't as good as us, I had two DBs on me. If we played a team that had just as amount of talent as us, I had the best one. I was D1. So every week I had a D1 DB checking me, especially in my conference, 9-4-8.
You're staying home. And you got to see the last top player in the state last year, Leonard Fournette, could have chose the school much like you could have gone anywhere in the country. Did seeing him become, let's face it, a local celebrity, national celebrity now, really, seeing him and the kind of love he received from his home base and his fans and the LSU fans, did that have an effect on you? Does that rub off, noticing wow, I can be something special here in the state? And is that one of the factors that helped bring you to LSU's class?
I paid attention to that when he committed, when Leonard Fournette committed. All the love and support that people from the city of New Orleans, city of Baton Rouge gave him. And at other colleges, they go show love to their players from their home state. And I just want to be a part of my home state so everybody from New Orleans, Baton Rouge can show me the same love they show me.
You were hard to get a read on. You were very hard to get a read on. How hard was it? Even after you committed, I know schools didn't slow down one bit. Probably even picked it up more. Kicked it into overdrive. How difficult was it and stressful was it, and how relieved are you today that it's finally all behind you?
It was very difficult and stressful, picking one college out, any college in America. And I just had to talk to my coach, talk to my family and friends more about what college I want to go and really and follow my heart. Yeah.
After you committed, how hard were you going after some of these other guys, Dante Jackson and guys like that, and trying to help make this class special?
Hard, especially Dante Jackson. He's a close friend of mine, and I was in there every day. He wasn't committed to LSU. Like, come with the boys.
Frank Wilson, I've heard Frank say, I don't miss on my guys. He's told me that a few times. I've heard him tell prospects, when I want you, I'm going to get you. And I'm sure he's told you that at one point. If Frank Wilson isn't at LSU, do you think you're at LSU?
That's a hard question to ask. That's a hard question to answer, really. But, Coach Frank a great guy. He recruited me hard. Honestly, if he wasn't there, I probably wouldn't be there because I had people like Kevin Curtis and Coach Henney that recruited me the same way he recruited me.
What is it about his way? He's a very successful recruiter. NFL.com named him the #1 recruiter in the country. What do you think it is about him that kind of separates him from some of the other coaches? What makes him so successful? Is it his diligence and just he's not going to give up? Is it his personality? What is it about Frank Wilson that makes him so effective?
He's a great guy. His personality, his consistency. Every running back that played for him is in the NFL, so he's very consistent, and he just cares for you. He loves you, and he gonna treat you like his son.
All right, so I guess we're gonna be friends now for a long time because you ended up #1 on my rankings, right?
yeah.
All right, so here you have it. Oh, I'm sorry.
Tyron Johnson, everybody. A Warren Easton Eagle, now an LSU Tiger. Thank you for joining us, Tyron.
Hey, man. Appreciate it.
We want to bring up the leader of the Warren Easton Eagles, and Coach Tony Hull. Stand right in between. No, you stand. Stand right in here.
I'm going to take this off.
Coach Hull, thanks for joining us tonight. Talk a little bit about what's it like seeing all these kids here, and what's it going to be like when you don't see them anymore?
It's bittersweet. Those guys we've raised since their freshman year. They're our kids. It's bittersweet because they're leaving us, but they're going somewhere better. And my coaching staff and I, we were just excited to see them experience this type of experience, and we're happy for them.
This is what a coach really lives for, though. I mean, you're letting the Eagles fly. They fly in the coop, but, this is why you get in this business. I mean, you end up being like a father figure to a lot of these kids, and talk about your personal feelings and how you're feeling inside.
Well, yeah, it's not just me. It's the other 9 guys on my staff. We all raised them like we raised our own kids, and we're happy to see them go, but they're well prepared. We put them through a lot of rigor and relevance when it comes to real life and on the field football-wise, and they're prepared for each stage they're about to take.
Coach, I talked to Deshaun a little bit about the emotions of the state championship game and how hard you guys worked to get there. And I watched the speech afterwards, and you had me tearing up. And I know it was an emotional day. Was it the most emotional day of your life?
It probably was. It's probably the toughest speech I've ever given in life because you work so hard for that moment and to come up a point short, it's hard to deal with. I'd rather lose by 20 than lose by 1 in a game like that. So to come so close, it was tough, and it was the hardest thing I ever did. However, it was a great lesson for life, and that lesson is going to prepare those boys for whenever they go on.
When these boys were freshmen, did you envision the success that you guys ended up having? I mean, Warren Easton wasn't used to a lot of success in football, and so I don't know how much every coach expects to win or hopes to win, but did you expect this?
Well, me and my coaches, we knew this group was going to be very special. We didn't know what they were going to attain. However, we knew this was going to be an extremely special group, and they had the potential to take Warren Easton to another level, and they did. To say I knew it to this magnitude, I wouldn't say that, but I knew that they were going to be special.
What's next for the Eagles? What do they do next year?
We keep grinding. We get a little better. We don't have seniors like this, but we got some cats that have been salivating at the mouth, wanting to get after it to prove their worth also. And we got some nice kids coming in also who want to be a part of this. So, you know, it's going to be extremely fun the next couple of years while we're here at Warren Easton. You know, it's special because, you know, everybody knows the Deshawns and does everything. However, people like Darren Holmes and Calvin Lunkins, who wasn't as big time as those guys were, you know, they show up in the semifinal and the quarterfinal state championship game, and college coaches like, you know, oh my goodness, who is this kid here? And they earn full scholarships to go to Division I school. Those type of stories make you happy.
Coach, also, when you have the Deshawns and the Tyrants of the world, when you have them, the exposure on them allow other kids to be seen as well, don't they?
Correct, they do. You know, Calvin and Darian, they were recognized in the spring when we started spring ball. The college coaches came and they were like, hold on, this is too good to be true. Something has to be wrong with these kids. And throughout the year, they just got better and better and better. And I'm just using those two as examples because, you know, we can see them. And then when the season came around, it was like, you know what, these kids are for real. So, yes, the exposure allows kids like them to come in and do something special also.
Lastly, Coach, what is your, it's hard to put it down into one, but what's going to be your number one memory from this group?
My number one memory from this group would probably be when we were practicing in the Superdome for the state championship game, to see the kids run around and move, and not just my older, like Deshaun and Tyron and Calvin and Darian, but to see the little babies, the little ninth graders, the little 10th graders who are waiting for a moment to prove themselves, to see them practice and get wide-eyed and get mesmerized by the lights. That was a tremendous feeling. And see my coaches get wide-eyed and mesmerized by the stadium, that was a tremendous feeling. I'm always going to remember that.
Calvin, what was it like to practice in the dome?
Well, it was really exciting because I never played in the dome before, so it really woke me up that day before the championship game. I really was excited.
Was it, Darren, when you were practicing in the dome that day, do you think about the people that have played on that floor before you?
Yes, I have. I just thought about all the great players that have played, and I realized that one day I could be just like them.
Is that what will stick with you, thinking about that? I mean, I would imagine you probably remember more from that practice maybe than the game, because the game flies by so fast.
Yeah, I really did. I liked it out there.
Coach Hull, thanks for bringing your boys out. We really appreciate it here at NOLA.com. Times-Picayune. Come back next year and bring another big group.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Coach Tony Hull and the Warren Easton Eagles, everybody.
Appreciate everything. Thank y'all. Appreciate it.
Quite a talented group. I mean,
I'd say.
we could
That's
make
amazing.
this whole show about Warren Easton and probably still run out of time.
It's absolutely amazing. Once again, I'm Jim Derry, along here with Andrew Lopez and James Smith, here with my producer, Amos Morale III, and Julie Baudouin over in the corner. And we're here at Bobby Hebert's Cajun Cannon Restaurant and Bar. Beloved New Orleans Saints quarterback Bobby Hebert is throwing his helmet into the restaurant arena with a flair uniquely his own. Bobby Hebert's Cajun Cannon Restaurant and Bar is unlike any restaurant in the area. By combining Louisiana sports culture and authentic Louisiana food, at Bobby Hebert's Cajun Cannon Restaurant and Bar, you can chow down on savory selections like the famous crab cakes, delicious pastas, or the 7-patty Cajun Burger Challenge. Located at 4101 Veterans Boulevard and open 7 days a week for both lunch and dinner, Bobby Hebert's Cajun Cannon Restaurant and Bar, Metairies' new #1 restaurant. Next up, Jimmy, we got a guy who has had an interesting couple months. Let's just say interesting. And from Newman, from the Newman School, we'll bring up Kendall Bussey.
One of my favorite players.
I better be
Now a Texas A&M Maggie. Go ahead, Jimmy.
How you feeling, man?
I'm feeling good. Now it's all over.
Yeah, it's been I've used this phrase a couple times today, but I mean, it's no more true than with you. Quite a roller coaster ride, my friend.
Oh, definitely.
A lot of ups and downs. I remember recently we were doing this commitment. You chose Tennessee. Some things happened,
Right.
that forced you to kind of review your option and see if it was best for you. I mean, kind of explain what it's been like trying to make your decision basically twice in the last 6 weeks.
I mean, I have a great role model, my dad over there, who's kind of guiding me. He's been through the process, so it's great having him by my side. So he kind of looked out for me. He showed me what to look for and what not to look for. And I knew he wouldn't lead me wrong, so having him through the process is definitely big.
I know when you initially picked Tennessee, you woke up that morning really torn. It could have gone either way.
Right.
So, I mean, that made it that much easier knowing both schools were almost even to begin with.
Definitely.
So it's almost like just a lateral move. Not a step back, not a step. It's just an easy move for you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the thing, Texas A&M, they pretty much run the same system I do in high school as far as pace and spread offense, stuff like that. So I feel like that'd be easy transition as far as getting on the field early.
Now, I think your experience could bring light to a problem that I think is schools oversigning.
Right.
Schools putting themselves in a situation that puts y'all in bad situations
right.
by telling you, hey, I'm sorry, we didn't have as much room as we thought. You know, I mean, that was a tough moment, I'm sure. How did you handle it? What was the advice you received from your father, who's been so good to you and so good to me? Great guy. I love him to death. I mean, what have you learned from that moment, and maybe something that could help kids moving forward, you know, that might experience the same thing?
Like I said, I know my dad will never lead me wrong. He always tell me, go where you're wanted and go where you're needed. So, I mean, when the class kind of overfilled and the numbers game kind of played a problem, I felt like it was nothing. He said it's a no-brainer that Texas A&M would definitely be the best fit, and I thought it was a no-brainer to make that decision.
What was it like playing at a school in Newman that such an amazing offensive history, you know, the history that goes on at that school, and you playing with Jay and all the things that go on over there? Talk a little bit about just being at Newman.
I mean, of course, we're reminded of that history every day with the Mannings. They have pictures and memorabilia everywhere in the school. But me and Jay, we just try to focus on creating our own names. We want to be the next two big names that make it out of Newman. Like you said, there have been some big names that come out, but we think we're just as good. So we're just trying to make our own names.
Is there one particular memory, what sticks out most? What are you going to take with you to the next level when you think about home and you think about playing at Newman? What are you going to take with you?
Definitely the moment I went down in the playoff game and Jay putting on number 5 jersey. I mean, that's special to me because he's always been a brother. We've been playing together since we were 8 years old. And so just knowing that I had that friendship and that bond is really, really amazing.
Talk about history and you know, whenever you guys play at home, and if I'm home early enough and I turn on the highlights from the games, I always know where the yellow home connects. I could see that stadium right away. It just stands out. What was it like playing in there week after week?
Oh, I mean, it's awesome. I mean, we had my 2 past seasons, we had a lot of home games. And the community is really behind us as a football team. They know how big it is. Seeing as how we've had some big-time players, and we've been producing pretty well. So everybody's kind of behind us and ready to see what we're doing every year. So it's awesome.
Moving on to the next level, you have any games circled in your mind already? I know it's early. You got a long way to go.
You know, Thanksgiving night we'll be in Tiger Stadium ready to tear it up. I've been talking with all the boys over there. I'm ready. We're ready to tear them apart. So I'm ready for that game.
Yeah, that's kind of developed into a rivalry. I know you've talked to some Texas A&M guys. Is that a team they really look at as one of their big rivals now in LSU?
I mean, you know, we have a couple New Orleans boys up there that kind of didn't want to stay home, kind of like me. So we kind of look at that as a challenge, you know, to just come back in Tiger Stadium and say we beat LSU. So, I mean, that's a game we always have circled, being from New Orleans. So that's what we're ready to do.
How fun was this ride as a whole? It was something you've been all over the country. You've visited so many schools. You've been to a lot of camps. And I think you've taken the most out of all this opportunity, you know, looking at life experiences. How fun was it for you?
It was definitely fun. You know, being recruited is none like any other time in your life. You know, everybody's courting you and showing you why their university is the best and why you should come. But, I mean, it's been stressful for me and my family. And really, I was trying to get this process over as soon as possible. Didn't work out the way I planned, but hey, it's over now. Papers are signed, and I'm ready to go.
Are you glad it's over?
I wish it was over a year ago, honestly. This has been long. It's been stressful, but hey, I'm happy.
I know people don't use snail mail hardly anymore, but I mean, was your mailbox stuffed every day for a certain amount of time?
Most of the time, I have about 40 letters. So, yeah, it's crazy. And my mom, she didn't even get tired of it. So we were all tired of it. Like I said, we're just glad it's all over. I found my home, and I'm ready to go compete.
Well, really, thank you for joining us, everybody. Kendall Bussey, a Newman Greeny, is now a Texas A&M Aggie.
Thank y'all for having
joining
me.
us.
Good luck with everything. Always, man. I appreciate you.
I know. You got to be in Denver for that game. You know
Yeah, I will be there in that game.
I got you.
We're gonna bring Andrew Lopez back up, NOLA.com, and Times-Picayune, and talk a little bit more about what's going on. Yeah, go ahead.
Switching up.
Lopes, I want to talk a little bit about, there's a lot of LSU fans. We talked a little bit earlier for the people who didn't join us in the morning show. You were out in Brookhaven, Mississippi, and talk about Leo Lewis, and I know some Tiger fans are upset.
Yeah.
They got most of what they wanted.
Right, and I would venture to say even maybe getting Brandon Martin, the wide receiver from Prime Prep, who was a Monroe native, maybe getting him actually helped kind of loosen that a little bit. Leo Lewis going maybe also open up a scholarship for Foster Moreau at tight end. Foster said he didn't know where he was going until 9 o'clock this morning, which is about the time that LSU found out through the grapevine, if you will, that Leo Lewis wouldn't be coming. You can connect the dots if you want, but Foster was always a kid who was he was going to have a spot in LSU's class if he, if they had a spot for him, and they ended up getting one with him through that way. Leo was the one.
How candid was he about everything?
Foster or Leo?
No, Leo.
Leo, I mean, he was kind of very his coach didn't really allow any one-on-one interviews. He kind of just put him up in front of the mic. We were you had to ask questions from, a little further back. But he basically said he wanted to stay in Mississippi. He wanted to, be a Mississippi kid and go to Mississippi State and help those kids out. And possibly, he talked about winning national championships, SEC championships at Mississippi State, which is kind of funny because he talked about national championship first and then SEC championships, which, the way the system is set up, it might be harder for them to win an SEC championship than it is to win a national championship, go through the playoffs.
Foster Moreau, and back to him, I'm assuming he was pretty happy that Leo decided to stay in the state of Mississippi.
I would say so. And I know he was going to be a kid, I think, who was going to be happy either way.
Yeah.
With where he was going to go. Tulane was a spot that he really wanted to go to before LSU kind of came in the picture.
Yeah.
And he kind of was the benefit of it. And, he's a pass-catching tight end that Tulane has kind of been molding. I mean, LSU, both schools really kind of been shifting to. Tulane used, I think, 3 different tight ends last year, in and out, including a pair of freshmen. LSU has been moving to that. He's got an All-American in front of him who's also a redshirt freshman. But, it's sometimes when those kids get a chance to play in Tiger Stadium, you just can't say no, even if you're not playing until you're a junior or senior.
Jim Rapier and I talked about this morning. What's the possibility of Trey LaForge walking on at LSU?
I think that is a good possibility right now. He has some offers to go play quarterback at Millsaps. Louisiana College really wants him. Even at Louisiana College, he would have to sit for a year or two while they have a quarterback who's very prolific right now.
Right.
But he would fit great into their offense, and they're really kind of wanting him to come there. So he's got some D3s, but I think Trey, he also is still exploring, I think, playing basketball at the next level. He used to kind of just be a power forward. He's really kind of transitioned into a kid who could play the wing depending on where he goes. So I think right now he's a guy who maybe he waits to go play basketball.
He's an interesting player because even though he's thinking about and Jim and I talked about this morning, but, we joked about LaForge to Moreau, a possibility, but, with the situation at quarterback at LSU, it's not inconceivable for him to go in there and actually compete for a job. He's got the size. We know he's got the head to do it.
Right.
And he needs to fill out a little bit and maybe get a little bit more build on him.
He's a kid who I could see. The one thing he's got a weird release.
Yeah.
And I think you question just his arms. I mean, obviously, when you're throwing to Kalijah Lipscomb, it makes it a little easier sometimes when he's he's running 10 yards past defenders. But if those were to happen, it's not inconceivable that he could, play his way into a scholarship there and be a legitimate that option. I mean, right now you have 3 scholarship quarterbacks there right now. Brandon Harris, Anthony Jennings, and then McMillan, the freshman, who just got there about 3 or 4 weeks ago. So it's not. I mean, he would get the reps.
rumblings that Mr. Harris isn't exactly thrilled.
Right. I mean, he would get the reps there. So it's like I said, it's not inconceivable that he would, not possibly play himself into a scholarship in maybe a year or two.
Other than Leo, and I asked Jimmy this question, I'm going to ask you the same question. What is your biggest surprise of the day?
It may be that, it was maybe that just the chain of events that led to Foster going to LSU.
Yeah.
Tulane coaches were pretty confident that they would get him. And it also may be it's kind of the behind the scenes that, like, Texas Tech was making pushes all around the city for numerous kids. Lots of different schools are the last minute type deals.
Right.
Terrell Chapman is a kid who hasn't made a decision yet because he just doesn't know. He's completely torn. And I just wish fans would really understand, this isn't just your kid
We
picking,
talked about that this morning.
Picking your favorite school. I mean, this is a place where they have to live, work, train for the next, 4 years of their life.
Especially with Kendall.
Right.
I mean, people were upset or whatever about what Kendall had to do. And you talk about, think about if you're going to take a job somewhere and you're going to have to be somewhere for 4 years, and then whatever you do is going to matter,
right?
For the next 40 years after that or whatever. I mean, these kids are making a decision on the rest of their lives,
right.
really.
In a situation like Kendall Bussey, that was a deal where it was completely, really out of his control. I mean, he was at Tennessee. That's what first he's at Tulane, and then he gets the bigger offers. And some people online where we've been talking, that's not even you shouldn't consider it a flip if a kid gets a much better offer. And then you're looking at he's at Nebraska. Nebraska loses their head coach, and maybe things aren't going to be the same, so he comes back and tries to find another spot. And that's when he wound up at Tennessee. And then, it was a numbers game.
That's right.
I mean, it was a complete numbers game. And then, a player at his position who was supposed to be out of the program all of a sudden is not out of the program.
Right.
That's a guy that wasn't supposed to be there, was part of your pitch to him.
And there's a good chance that 2 years from now, no one will even remember what he was trying to decide to do and where he was trying to decide to do it.
And, this is one of the situations you look at it, and people are going to criticize him for having committed to 4 schools.
Right.
But you can't really blame him, especially on this last one. And he understood that. We talked Monday night after everything kind of broke. He showed up to Kirk Merritt's signing announcement. Him and Kirk Merritt have been friends for quite a long time. Merritt was at Newman for a little while. And we talked, and we were just kind of candid about it. And, he goes, I understand that people are gonna come after me. People are not gonna like my decision. And you know what? I'm just thinking that right now, I'm just happy for him that he finally found a spot that is really where he needs to be in the long run. That's where his dad really wanted him to go, and everything kind of worked out, in the long run for him.
Before I let you off, I want you to talk a little bit about Tulane as well and what kind of day you think that Tulane had. And it was a pretty big day for Coach Johnson.
Yeah, even with signing 17 recruits, I was breaking down grades and really expecting to just keep seeing. I was like, maybe they'll have a bad grade here, a bad grade here. But I feel like at every position that they were going to, they identified a position in need.
Yeah.
And that was the thing. You look at running back and you get a bruiser and Nigel Anderson, and you get
an offensive line.
Right, Devin. The offensive line was tremendous. You pick up the former Miami commitment in Lebert Brown, who, as CJ said in his press conference today, if he comes in and does what he's supposed to, they don't see a way that they can keep him off the field next year.
Right.
You also pick up Keon Smart, who I think is a really big sleeper in this class. He's 6'5", 315, and you should see him move on the basketball court.
Really?
I mean, he can move in the post. So he's got great feet, for being out there on the edge. You look at wide receiver. They identified needs. They needed big receivers. They get Andrew Hicks and Darius Williams. Darius Williams, who has maybe some of the best hands in the city. We've seen him make catch after catch after catch. The defensive backfield is where they really loaded up. And even when you go to think, Malik Eugene is going to see the field next year at safety. Dedrick Shy is going to see the field next year at cornerback. Jeremy Francis will not be far behind him. They didn't really take...
Most of these are kids that have played in very successful programs.
You don't see too many of them where they took a kid who was going to really sit, and if they did it, they got him at a position where they have impact players. So it makes it interesting to try and grade, which I'm still trying to write and hash out right now, because you go, oh, okay, there. You look at it, and you think, perfect example, John Washington is a kid who is a 2-star athlete on Rivals and ESPN. But John Washington at West Monroe played in the exact defensive scheme that Tulane uses. So it's not he doesn't have as big of a learning curve as you would think. He fits perfectly into that defense, and he's a kid who can come in and play right away. They got kids that fit what they do.
Right.
And I think that's what's important to them, is that the kids fit Tulane's system, which makes it so much easier.
We're going to let you go back and write it and bring Jimmy back up. And thanks for joining us.
Hey,
Andrew
no problem.
Lopez, NOLA.com, Times-Picayune, recruiting expert. And Andrew and I and Jimmy Smith, along with producer Amos Morale III and Julie Baudouin, we're here at Bobby Hebert's Cajun Cannon Restaurant and Bar. Beloved New Orleans Saints quarterback Bobby Hebert is throwing his helmet into the restaurant arena with a flair uniquely his own. Bobby Hebert's Cajun Cannon Restaurant and Bar is unlike any restaurant in the area. By combining Louisiana sports culture and authentic Louisiana food at Bobby Hebert's Cajun Cannon Restaurant and Bar, you can chow down on savory selections like the famous crab cakes, delicious pastas, or the 7-patty Cannon Burger Challenge. That's challenged me all night long. Located at 4101 Veterans Boulevard and open 7 days a week for both lunch and dinner, Bobby Hebert's Cajun Cannon Restaurant and Bar, Metairee's new #1 restaurant. And Jimmy Smith, let's bring up a guy. We're going to stay with LSU here, and we talk about exciting, and this is quite an exciting player that's about to come up and join us. So let's bring up Xavier Lewis from East St. John. Take it away.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
What's up, man?
Mr. Excitement. So, it's all over for you?
Yeah.
You got your friends with you, you're staying home, family's happy?
Yeah.
I mean, how would you sum this whole experience up?
I mean, it was emotional and time consuming and emotionally draining, you know. Everybody wants you to come to this school. Everybody wants you to come here, do this, take this visit, meet this person, meet that person. I mean, you know, very time consuming.
Yeah, so you're happy it's all over, I'm assuming,
Oh, yeah,
correct?
I'm so happy it's over with.
There was a lot of talk. You know, you did commit early, and then you decided to kind of take a step back, reassess your situation, make sure you were 100% sure, and you recommitted to LSU. And then, of course, the rumors didn't stop. There was talk of Texas. There was talk of other schools. I mean, were you really looking around for better options, or just keeping an open mind, and maybe the media and some other people just ran rampant with rumors that weren't true?
I mean, when I decommitted, I just took a step back to really enjoy the recruiting process. I mean, my heart was always with LSU, but I mean, why shut everybody out during the recruiting process, and why I only can do it one time? And I was just reassuring that this is where I really want to go, and taking my time with the whole process and everything, and just making sure I made the right decision for me and my family.
You know, you're an extremely versatile defensive back. You know, and I've told you before, I could see you playing anywhere, whether it's outside of field or boundary corner, playing a nickel dime situation, even rolling a safety later in your career. And that's definitely going to help you get on the field early. Do you have a preference, and how do you take that approach to stay, you know, to be versatile, to be able to play in all those different sets? Because, you know, it takes a different skill set. As a safety, you've got to be physical and generally bigger. I mean, do you train to maintain that versatility so you can be flexible and play all those positions?
Yeah, that goes all into my my training. I mean, I train for all the positions I play. So now when I go into training for college, I mean, I'm gonna train for every single position in the secondary, so I can perfect it. And when my name is called, I can, you know, do my job.
See, I don't think a lot of people realize the work that goes out once you leave school. You know, you go home, you have homework, all that stuff, but you're often finding somewhere else to go get some extra work in. You know, working with guys like Duke Roos at the Duke Academy and Don Cox. And how important was that to your development? Because, I mean, you played quarterback a lot of your high school career.
Right.
And here you are, you have to make a transition to defensive back almost overnight.
Right.
Had you not had that training, it would have made it a lot more difficult. How vital was that to get you where you're at from an athletic standpoint?
I mean, if I didn't have those guys helping me out and getting me better, getting me stronger, faster, and helping me perfect my craft, I probably wouldn't be in this position I am today. So, you know, I give the utmost thanks, and I got the utmost respect for them.
The district that you played in the River Parishes, and people, you know, who don't know any better might not realize, I mean, they know Kirk Merritt, but there's a lot more to the River Parishes district than Destrehan and Kirk Merritt and even Hanville, and Thibodaux was really tough this year. Talk about how much you got out of playing all those teams.
It defined me as a player, and I mean, playing against those guys, it just showed me where I'm at in my game and what I need to improve on and what I'm decent at. I mean, complacency is always man's worst enemy, so I try to stray away from the complacency and always try to get better.
What's the most exciting thing about wearing purple and gold and going to Baton Rouge?
Just representing the university. I mean, all these great fans and the great coaching staff, and just being a part of this great organization is a blessing.
What's your number one memory that you're going to take with you from East St. John up to Baton Rouge?
Just the locker room moments. I mean, just being in the locker room with those guys. I mean, it was great. I mean, the best 4 years of my life.
I saw all of y'all together today at the restaurant, and y'all seem like, I mean, I didn't get a chance to cover y'all this year, but you seem like a family. It seems like you're such a tight-knit group. Y'all were having fun together. How much are you going to miss all those guys?
Man, that's the main thing I'm going to miss about my whole high school experience is my guys on the football team. I mean, I love those guys like they're my own brother. I mean, if I can get another year of high school football, I would. I mean, just how much I love them, you know. And some of the stuff I do, I dedicate that for them, and in the name of East St. John, just because we all, you know, put in the work, and you know, I'm gonna miss those guys.
How excited are you about to step in and get coached by really one of the best? You know, Corey Raymond, he's come in since he's been here at LSU. They've been highly productive and successful in the secondary. How excited are you to know that you're going to get tutored by one of the best in the business?
I mean, any coach that coached my favorite corner in the league, I mean, it's a privilege. He coached Patrick Peterson, and Patrick Peterson the best in the league, so I guess I'm blessed.
Xavier Lewis, thanks for joining us here at NOLA.com, and we really appreciate you coming up. Xavier Lewis, East St. John Wildcat, now an LSU Tiger. Thanks for joining us.
Appreciate you, man. Did you eat? You wait, huh? You wait?
Oh, yeah. I'm good.
Really appreciate it.
Jimmy, before we bring up Chad Savatt from Fox 8, I want to talk a little bit. My beat is the Northshore. We haven't got to it, so I'd be remiss. We were supposed to have Christian Campbell on tonight. He wasn't able to make it, but I want to talk a little bit about two specific, actually three kids from the North Shore, and what you think is going to happen. One of them didn't even sign, and I wrote a story about him today. Mandeville's linebacker Matthew Scanlon, who had 168 tackles this season, had 22 in his final game against Acadiana, and never got any real offers. How does that happen?
You know, especially in this day and age, right? Internet, huddle, all the different football camps. You know, still guys will always fall through the cracks, you know, and what I have a hard time with is when I do my rankings, a lot of fans will come at me and say, hey, what about my son,
right,
or my brother, or so whatever it is, and they'll give me their stat line. It's important to remember we're not talking about what they could do in the high school level. We're talking about how his game translates to the college level, and you know, I mean, it's unfortunate. I'm sure he will find a home. This goes all the way up till April 1st. He's going to be able to look for a couple months, and some schools are going to miss on some guys that they thought we're going to qualify academically that won't. And so there could be something that develops, but it's unfortunate, but it's something it's almost impossible to get rid of.
Got to ask you about Christian Campbell. And Christian, he didn't get that offer to LSU. I know he was really hoping that he would get, and he would have gone over there and probably projected to be a defensive back or a safety at LSU. So he's going to remain a quarterback, and really for him personally, it might be the best thing that ever happened to him because he really fits the mold of a Georgia Tech quarterback.
Yeah, it's a great fit, and I always tell kids, I try not to give advice, but I do tell them, find the fit for you and make sure that everybody's on the same page. Those are the two things I tell them. Find the fit for you and make sure everybody's on the same page. Don't fall in love with a school that your mom hates, basically.
Right.
But he found the perfect fit for him. I mean, he's an absolute dynamic football player with the ball in his hands. He doesn't have much experience at any other position, so you'd hate to move him because you feel like you're taking away from his game. Almost it becomes a risk factor at that point. But in that type of offense, he's going to be phenomenal. And I expect him to put up huge numbers at Georgia Tech, and the kind of numbers that even have teams wondering on Sunday, is there something we can do with this kid?
Right. Well, I want to bring in, I really thank Fox 8, WVUE's Chad Savatt for joining us. And you got a little show yourself tonight. Fox Football Friday is spilling over on a Wednesday.
We're really excited about it, guys. And this past fall, we began our prep show, Fox 8 Football Friday, and it did really well. And, I'm a local guy. I grew up in Slidell, and I remember playing football. I went to Pope John Paul on the Northshore, and every Friday night after the game, we kind of rushed to either somebody's house or to a restaurant and kind of watch the highlights. Did we make the cut? Did they show a few plays from our big game? And it's such a big deal. So over the past year, when Fox 8 decided, hey, guys, we've got the largest sports staff in town and a great partnership with NOLA.com, let's no doubt add the prep show. It flew off without a hitch, and can't thank you guys enough because you've been a huge part of it with us. But it did really well, and now the first Wednesday in February 2015, the first National Signing Day special, so we're really looking forward to it. It's going to follow tonight's newscast at 10 o'clock, so at 10:35, Fox 8 Signing Day.
Well, we've both been on your show before. We appreciate you having us, and same for you being with us tonight. What did you get, what will you remember most about your first season doing, the show and really getting into prep football and those sorts of things? What are you going to take out of the season?
Just how special it is overall, how passionate the fan bases are. I mean, it doesn't really matter if it's public or private, the split and whatnot. You find some of the very best fans here in Louisiana because it means such a big deal to everybody.
Right.
It's a sense of community and family and pride and self-worth, and the hard work that goes into it. We've seen it, from the heat and humidity of the summer months through, fall camps for all the various high schools, through the season, and through a tough gauntlet of a postseason schedule here in Louisiana. I mean, there's no easy weeks in playing prep football in Louisiana. So the passion and the pride that's associated with it, and really the 2 weekends of the state championships, It was fantastic. I mean, you can debate public versus private, the split all night long, but it was cool to have not one but 2 weekends, just have such a showcase, and 9 state champions this year was a lot of fun.
It's interesting because we can write as many stories we want about anything. I mean, we have unlimited amount of space on the internet. You guys have a 6 to 8 minute window every night. Talk about how high school sports has kind of forced its way upon the scene, and it's recruiting, especially having James on, and how important that has been for you guys.
It's such a big deal, and I'll give you this quick stat. So we do a lot of Saints coverage, and rightfully so. I mean, this is Who Dat Nation. We're right in the middle of it. People love the black and gold. We have plenty of specialty Saints programs, from our Sunday morning Fox 8 Live tailgate, Sunday night the final play, Thursday night game plan. The prep show, the Fox 8 Football Friday, did as well, if not better, than a lot of our Saints shows with the ratings, because people care about it so much. It's a matter of supply and demand. People want to know about their prep stars and the local teams, and who's up and coming, and who's the next great recruiting standout, and who's going where, and what out-of-state prospects you're kind of thinking outside the box. And it's always interesting this time of year because you do get that nice mix. A lot of us, are tied to Louisiana. You might be an LSU alum or a Tulane fan, and you want to see your alma mater, your program do well, but you've got to respect the decisions of all these other young men that want to do something different, that want to take their talents out of state, that maybe want to live in a different part of the country. So it's a lot of fun, the variety, but like you said, the demand for prep football is here, and it's not going away anytime soon.
You do the show with Sean Fazan every week, and What did you guys learn most about doing it for the first time that maybe something you might change for next year or make sure you keep the same either way? What was the number one thing you took out of it?
One mentality that really worked well for us was that we said, hey, this is going to be a fun show. And sports overall is. Look, a lot of our news colleagues work hard, are very dedicated, but news, honestly, can be kind of depressing a little bit.
Right.
You know, unfortunately, the murders and the crime. Sports is uplifting and just like the passion we mentioned. So we said, we're going to have a lot of fun with this show, and we did. You know, between the highlights and just, interjecting between each other. And Sean and I, we've actually known each other since we were both at LSU during our college days. So this goes back a good 14, 15 years ago. We're all getting older, a little more gray
Right.
up top.
Platinum
But,
blonde.
You know, between Sean and myself and Garland Gillen as well, we've all kind of been through the prep football gauntlet of shows before. And when I used to work in Baton Rouge, it was such a big deal. And down here, it's just as good, if not better. So it's been a lot of fun. And that's the mentality we approach it with.
And Garland Gillen has been out on location all over the place, wherever it seems like I see him wherever I go, out on the field. And you're bringing on Juan Kincaid, who knows a little bit something about these sorts of shows. So Fox 8 is, for those who haven't made the switch, as you guys talk, now's the time to do so. You guys doing some exciting things over there.
Great staff, and we have the largest sports staff in the state, if not one of the biggest ones in the country for our market size. New Orleans being the top 50 market. When I came here right about 2.5 years ago, it was one of the only situations where I saw a sports staff expanding.
Right.
Just with the tough budget and the way of the world these days, a lot of TV stations are cutting back, trying to make people do more with less. But Fox 8 said, hey, we want to be the best, so we're going to continue to bring in talented people. We're going to partner with the best paper in town, the best website, NOLA.com. There's a little shout out. But no, you guys do great work, and we're privileged to work with you all, and it really has been beneficial for both outlets and then just the fans and the viewers. So, here's hoping to more continued success for all of us.
Well, Chad, Savatt, we're excited. We're enjoying being partners here at NOLA.com and Times-Picayune with WVUE Fox 8. We look forward to seeing your show tonight. Fox Football Friday, 10:35 tonight. Join Chad and Sean. I'm assuming Sean's
Yes,
going to be
sir.
there. We'll see you tonight. Thanks, Chad.
Might even get this guy in studio with us, too.
Oh,
huh?
man. I'm DVRing it now.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Chad.
Thank you, buddy.
All right, Jim.
Thanks a lot. We appreciate it. Jimmy, before we wrap up tonight, let's just kind of review. There is actually, we never really talked about Derek Dillon. We talked about a bunch of LSU players. I want to talk about Derek and what he means to the LSU program.
Derek's real quiet kid. Following his recruitment was somewhat difficult because he didn't open up much, and so you didn't really have a good read on him. But as a football player, he's phenomenal with the ball in his hands. He plays a lot of quarterback. He's played some running back. LSU initially recruited him as a defensive back, which turned him off.
Right.
Which ultimately pushed him away from LSU initially, to where he committed to Florida. And had it not been for the coaching change with Will Muschamp, he may not be a Tiger today. I say that. LSU dug in. Who knows? They may have been able to flip him anyway. But that certainly opened the door a bit. But he's going to bring a little something different. Last year they brought in Malachi Dupree, Trey Quinn. They have Travin Durrell on roster. They have guys that can take the top off of defense.
Right.
They have some guys that can run some routes underneath. They don't have any receivers that can create it on their own in space, that you hit on a hitch or a slant route. And Tyron Johnson, Derek Dillon are probably two of the best in the country at doing that. And so I think he's going to have a huge addition to this team that's going to be felt right away. And he gives them another option as a return man as well. And if things don't pan out, you always have the option of possibly moving him to corner, which I think he would be great at. So
Would he be receptive to that, you think?
I don't, but they're more receptive to playing a position they don't like than not playing.
Right.
If for some reason he has a hard time getting on the field, I could see him opening up to that move.
One more player on the North Shore I want to talk about, and J.J. McCluskey very well.
Very well.
He trains a lot of athletes, not just on the North Shore, across the metro area, and man, he's been a great friend to all of us here at NOLA.com. And his son Jalen McCluskey is going to play at Oklahoma State, and I wrote a story earlier in the week about how Jalen started off in 2011, 5'1", 84 pounds, and now he's 5'10", and he's weighing about 180 pounds. He's working on getting up a little bit higher. Maybe he's 175. Talk about the possibility of his impact in a program pass happy Big 12 at Oklahoma State.
Yeah, recruiting's really all about upside. You know, you were talking about the kid from Mandeville earlier with all the tackles.
Right.
And, you know, I've had kids that's been easier to get offers that hadn't even started a high school game just because of the natural raw ability. And Jalen's got a ton of upside. He continues to grow. Wouldn't surprise me if he's pushing 6 foot by the time he's done. He's younger than most kids in his class. His dad, JJ, who's one of the better trainers in the area, has done a good job of keeping him fluid and loose and not stacking too much weight on him to lose his speed. So, I mean, the kid's really explosive, but just so technically sound.
Right.
You know, and I think, of course, when your dad plays in the NFL and he works you like JJ does, I mean, that's going to be an asset for sure. But, I mean, he's extremely technically sound. He's impossible to jam on the line of scrimmage. He's got top-end speed that can certainly stretch the field. I mean, I think the kid is going to be a phenomenal college player. His best years are certainly going to be on the back end of his college career as he grows and matures even more over time. But I think Jalen McCluskey, when people look back 3, 4, 5 years from now and look back at this recruiting class, they're going to realize Jalen McCluskey was extremely underrated.
Well, I'm going to say tonight that we got in more guests than we had on our schedule.
Yeah.
And way more guests than we had on our schedule. And we're still, we've got 10 minutes left to go. We might wrap up the show a little bit earlier tonight. But before we wrap up, for those who are just joining us, we talked about it at the beginning of the show. I want you to tell me again, what is your biggest, what are you taking from today? What's your biggest story of the day? What are you going to talk about on Fox 8 tonight?
Yeah, I mean, it's, everybody wants to know about LSU, of course, and they've finished extremely strong down the stretch despite coaching changes, which is extremely hard to do. And the players they got filled needs. Since I've been covering LSU, I think this is only the 3rd year. I've followed them a while. I'm from Louisiana as well. I can't recall, since I've been following recruiting in general, a class that addressed needs as well as this one has for the Tigers. Moving forward next year puts them in such a good position next year where they don't have to rush and push and stretch the numbers to try to find more bodies because they're thin in certain spots. Right. They were able to add depth this year that's going to let them be even more selective next year. And I think, ultimately getting Dillon flipped, commitment from Toby Weathersby, a tackle from Houston, Texas. I mean, those have to be 2 of the bigger stories of the day. And, of course, the shock and surprise, Brandon Martin, Prime Prep Academy out in Dallas, Texas. Don't know if he's going to be academically eligible to play next year, but he's certainly one of the most phenomenal prospects in the country. I mean, this kid's a monster. So,
and really, the only miss of the day is really Leo Lewis. I mean, do you see them really missing on anything else that they, of your projections? Did they miss on anything else besides him?
No. And I mean, had I done the projections this morning, they probably would have been a little different. I did them a little premature, as early as I could for my readers, but things change so minute to minute. This is such a fluid business. And I try to tell everybody, it's as volatile as the stock market.
Right.
You never know what's going to happen tomorrow, what company's going to fall apart, what new company's going to emerge. I mean, it's impossible to keep your finger on accurately. You just try to stick with it as much as possible. But
what's a typical day like for you?
It's ridiculous. I looked on my cell phone bill for January, 6,800 minutes.
Wow.
6,800 minutes in January. So, I mean, that gives you...
beat my wife. You know how hard that is to do?
Dude, 6,800 minutes. And then well over 1,600, I think it was 1,680 or so text messages. So, I mean, my phone rings nonstop. Of course, when we're in crunch time like this, it rings more.
Yeah.
I'm probably not pushing 6,800 minutes a month on average, but, I mean, this whole month, I'm dead.
Yeah. So you're ready to take some time off, or do you? I mean, obviously you got some follow-up stories to write, but
yeah.
Do you take some time off now?
Kinda. I mean, this is the kind of business, if you step away for a week, it takes you 3 to catch up. Things happen so fast, and even when you try to take time off, you don't get it. You know, I take vacation, my phone rings nonstop, and it's not like I can turn it off.
Right.
I can't miss the story. I can't not know about the next Tyron Johnson. So, I mean, girlfriend hates it, son hates it, mother hates it. You know, the pastor probably hates it, but it's
your life.
It's what I do, and I love it, and I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
When we sit up here next year, who are going to be the biggest names up here with us next year if you had to make a prediction right now?
I mean, next year is so loaded. I imagine Shea Patterson, quarterback from Calvary Baptist.
Is he going to LSU?
Don't think so.
You don't
think
think
so.
so?
It's a little early, but I'm
Sorry,
starting.
Tiger
I
fans.
see him in the SEC West, just not at LSU. But, you know, there's a lot of time left. In the city itself, another Warren Easton kid, Clyde LaFleur, will definitely be one we'd want to have up here, a dynamic performer. You know, I'm hoping he rebounds from his injury, but he's likely going to be up here. And Christian Fulton, who we did have up here, one of the nation's premier corner, if not the nation's premier corner, so he'll probably be here. I mean, we could honestly fill a few of these restaurants with just top prospects next year. So we got to get on the phone with the Cajun Cannon, tell them to open up a second location. Maybe we can do 2 of these things.
And I want to thank Bobby Hebert's Cajun Cannon Restaurant and Bar and the staff here. But not just the staff here. I really want to thank our staff here at NOLA.com and Times-Picayune.
Phenomenal
there
staff.
are so many people behind the scenes that don't get recognition, and we've got Amos Morale III sitting here with the headphones on, and he's been sitting here getting the guest stuff for us. Julie Bode went over in the corner, another producer, and we've Chris Dave, producer, and who's in house tonight down at One Canal Place. We could go on and on. I mean, about our staff. And Chad said something, he was trying to, I know he probably meant it and he was trying to be nice, but look, there's no doubt in my mind that our staff is on top of the situation, and we've got it going on.
Yeah, I'm honored to be working with this company. I mean, I saw it the first week on the staff, what I had, the kind of team I had around me. I mean, it's amazing from the back end to guys you rub elbows with out on the beat, I mean, everybody that chips in are grinders. They're just professionals. They do such a great job. And that's one thing that will keep me here. As long as this group's here, I'm not leaving. This is just a phenomenal team to work with, and I'm grateful for every moment of it.
Well, we want to thank everyone once again, and thank you, the readers, for joining us. I guess you're listeners right now. You're not just readers. And thanks to everyone out in the crowd. We had a nice turnout here tonight at Bobby Hebert's Cajun Cannon Restaurant and Bar, 4101 Veterans Boulevard, open 7 days a week. Come and join them. And, hey, also read all of our stuff. James Smith has plenty on NOLA.com, along with Andrew Lopez and our host of writers, Sam Spiegelman, I talked to earlier today. Patrick Greenfield's got some great videos. So NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune, we've got plenty of stuff up for you. And want to say once again, thanks for joining us. Jimmy, thank you.
Thank you.
And we're going to go take a break. We've been working for I've been working for 3 days straight. You've been working about 12 months straight. So we're going to take a break. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jim Derry, along with James Smith, signing off here for NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune. Have a good night.